Let me tell you this right now. If the IBF rules in favor of letting Triple G keep this IBF belt and sanction the Advantage Masarosian fight after they said they wasn't going to sanction that fight May 5th, they some clowns. We back. It's the Boxing Clinic and more. Bringing some boxing heat. Y'all know what it is. And shout out to the homie Famous Athletics. He doing his thing out here. I got to give homie his props as well, man. He coming up fast and his videos is really, really good, man. Shout out to Famous Athletics. My Famous Athletic voice, man. But we talking about the IBF and Triple G. So basically what's going on is Gennady Golovkin is trying to get the Advantage Masarosian fight sanctioned by the IBF. Now, the IBF didn't sanction the fight May 5th. They was the only sanctioned belt body to not sanction the fight. WCWBA did sanction the fight, saying that, you know, basically Triple G got the shit in of the stick because Canelo Alvarez's failed PEDF test for clenbuterol. But at the same time, he failed tests back in February, became the light in March. Triple G had plenty enough time to get an adequate opponent. And one of those adequate opponents that could have been there was Sergey Shevchenko. I'm going to call him Shevchenko. That's what I call him. He could have fought him May 5th, got him out the way. He claimed that it wasn't enough money. The network didn't have no money for him. But apparently HBO had money for Gary Spike O'Sullivan. They had money for Advantage Masarosian. And, you know, they trying to hide behind the money thing. And Team Triple G been doing that for quite some time, saying that nobody wanted to fight them, but they've been shortballing people on the money. Probably taking some shit like 80-20 splits, like they overpricing themselves because they don't want to fight real competition. I've been telling y'all for years that Triple G Gennady Golovkin is one of the world's biggest frauds, not just in boxing, not just in sports, but in overall. He's fraudulent. His whole mystique was built on bum bashing, and he never really stepped up and really tried to be great. And people say, well, Marvin Hagler never moved up. And that's right. That's Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler had crossover fights. Marvin Hagler fought the best. He fought tough competition. Triple G, he ain't fought shit. His first toughest fight was versus Kell Brook in the public's eye. You know, welterweight. Then his second toughest fight was Danny Jacobs, a guy who been knocked out and knocked down by Sergio Mora. A guy that was figured not to go to 7 rounds with Triple G. He was a massive underdog. And then he fought Canelo Alvarez, who was a career, not even a career 154-pounder, guy that was a 140-pounder at one point, and he went the distance with him and didn't destroy him like he was supposed to. You could say he was on shit or not on shit. Remember, Triple G said it don't matter if he on nothing, I still want to fight him. So you look at the whole situation, he's a fraud. But at the same time, the IBF has a chance to do the right thing or be labeled as a fraud as well. And the right thing is to stand on their morals, not let him fight, not let him sanction the Advantage, well, don't sanction the Advantage Masarosian fight, and move on. Because if they sanction this fight, they just like the rest. They fraudulent. And the IBF prides themselves on strict ruling and having some motherfucking common sense. And after this, they do this. That's what they built on. It's being strict and by the rule book. And they might be in sometimes if it's for the right cause, but they really, really strict. And they had a strict stance for not, you know, sanctioning the Advantage Masarosian fight. Now the deal is, since that wasn't a sanctioned fight, he got to fight his mandatory Sergey Shevchenko. So if he don't fight Shevchenko by August 3rd, he got to relinquish the belt. And that's what they should do, is strip his ass. Don't let him keep that belt. Strip his ass. Because if he could have fought Sergey Shevchenko May 5th, it wasn't no money issue. It was the fact that they didn't want to mess up the Canelo Alvarez fight in September, which is on par to happen. Triple G just re-enrolled in VADA. Like, get the fuck out of here. You should have been in VADA if you were IBF, a WBA, WC champion. Should never been out of it. But like I said, the IBF got a chance to do what's right for the sport of boxing. But guess what? They don't want to miss out on that 6% sanctioning belt fee that they're gonna be getting from Golovkin and getting from and Canelo. You know what I'm saying? That 6%, you know, of what? That can be what? Let's say a 60 million pot. That's big money for them. You know, they don't want to give up that. They don't want to give up that money. So this gonna show you if the IBF is really the king of strict rules and good for the better good of boxing, or they about money. And my money says the IBF is gonna be about money and gonna give Triple G a pass and put Sergey Shevchenko on the back burner. And if they do it, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it's boxing. It's all about the dollar. When Triple G should be stripped, he should be stripped of the WBC as well. He ain't trying to fight no mandatories. He should just hold the Super WBA championship belt because he's not trying to unify. He don't want to be undisputed. He lied on Billy Joe Saunders, said Billy Joe Saunders priced himself out when Frank Warren said that's a motherfucking lie. We had a deal last June. You backed out because Oscar De La Hoya, bitch slapped your ass back to go fight Canelo in September. Okay? So for what it is, man, it is what it is. People gonna act like this dude ain't fraudulent. They gonna act like he had a hell of a career when he didn't. His career is as overrated as I ever seen in any sport. Each one of his belts was interim titles other than the IBF, which he actually beat David Lemieux, who won vacant. And we know David Lemieux is not a world championship caliber fighter. He's not an elite fighter. He's just a guy that got elite power and can easily be knocked out and was knocked out before he even fought Triple G. So this dude ain't did nothing extraordinary in the sport of boxing. People say, oh, he got 20 title defenses. Having a regular WBA championship is not title defenses. That is like an intercontinental subsidiary belt, man. That's not the Super WBA championship belt, but they won't tell you that in the history books. They won't tell you the real. These major boxing writers won't tell you what's really cooking, man. And that's boxing, man. How many major writers are going to tell the truth about this IBF situation if the IBF rule in favor of Triple G? How many people going to cover this and tell the truth? Or they going to just drop an article out there real quick and say, oh, I covered it. How many people going to drill into this motherfucker for this bullshit? How many people going to put it on the IBF? Like I said earlier, man, in my live stream, if it wouldn't be no need for the new media, for YouTube, YouTube to talk about boxing if the major boxing media did their job and told the truth and remained neutral. But they cannot remain neutral because when Bob Arum and Oscar De La Hoya comps you for everything, got you in their back pocket, pays for everything, when they put money on the table, then they got an obligation to sway their articles. Then they got an obligation to let racist emails and not ask about them again. Then they got an obligation not to talk about how Bob Arum is stealing fighters. Then they got an obligation to let shit like this with the IBF slide and not really talk about it. Like I said, bro, you can't trust nobody on that major media shit. All them motherfuckers is paid to turn the other eye or paid to boost up fighters that really ain't what they is. And what's so funny about it, Bob and Oscar paying all these writers to do all this shit, but they still behind Al Heyman. They paying Bob, and they paying Bob and them is paying these writers to do all this shit, and Lomachenko still ain't a pay-per-view star. They paying the big up Triple G, he still can't pull his own pay-per-view. They paying all this money to these writers and they still can't get the fucking job done. They still can't move the fucking masses like we can on YouTube. This is where that real boxing shit at right here. We ain't paid to shut the fuck up and be censored like them, like they are. But y'all know what it is. Y'all know how we do it. It's TBC and more. We go.